and welcome back to the Spotlight in Chelmsford show. I'm Tom Christiano. Well, tonight, this afternoon, we're taping actually at the Byam Historical House, the Barrett-Byam Historical House on Byam Road in Chelmsford. And I'm here, as you could see, with a couple of volunteer beekeepers. Villu Tari, who's one of the directors over at Chelmsford Telemedia. How are you, Villu?
Good, how are you?
Good, thanks. And his lovely wife, Kari. Is it Kari?
Yes.
Kari Tari? Tari. Yeah, Kari Tari. That's kind of an alliteration, right?
Right.
It sounds nice. It flows off the tongue.
No laughing.
No laughing, right? So we're here outside of the Byam Historical Home, and because Villu and Kari are going to tell us all about this beekeeping operation. They do it strictly on a volunteer basis, and I thought it'd be interesting for the people in Chelmsford to know what goes on here at the beehives, and I'd like to know myself. And also I'd like to mention that on September 29th, there's going to be a farm fair right here at the Byam Historical Homestead on Byam Road from noon to 4 p.m. on September 29th, 2007. So Villu, could you tell us a little bit about this beehive, how long it's been here, what you've been doing?
These two hives, actually, they've been around now since 2000, I believe. We installed the bees, or introduced the bees. Actually, we built the whole thing, put the fence up and brought the bees in. So they've been around for 7 years now, more than 7 years.
And how many bees approximately do you have in there?
That's a good question. I never had time to count them, but
it's 1,000.
No, it's by the height of the summer. There's probably about 60,000 bees in the hive.
60,000.
Of course, you know, with the winter, the number shrinks, and you may have only 1/3 or 1/4 of them left, you know, by the spring. But then the whole process and the whole life cycle starts again, and the queen starts laying eggs, and the hive just grows up to that number.
How many queens do we have in these two hives?
Just one queen per hive.
That's a maximum?
That's a maximum, because if there's two queens, they fight for death. So there's only one queen per hive, always.
And Kari, you became involved with the bees along with your husband at the same time?
Right. I did it for the honey.
Oh.
Yes.
You did it for the honey?
Yes.
Oh, you love honey, right?
I love honey.
Do you drink tea with honey?
Tea, coffee, anything.
Coffee also?
Absolutely.
And it's very helpful for you, right?
Honey is very healthy. It's good for the digestion. It's antimicrobial. It's healthy.
It's healthy?
Yeah, teaspoon a day at least.
Wonderful. Well, hopefully I could start taking it and become healthier. So basically we have a honey in each of these two, you call them hives?
Hives, yes.
And what are all these stacks here, Villu? I don't know if you could get them yet. We have like 1, 2, 3, 4, I'd say. 4 like stacks of things with little handles.
Well, these bottom two, we call them supers. The bottom two supers are their home, basically, and we never take the honey away from those boxes. That's their home. That's where they lay their eggs. The queen lays their eggs. They grow up their youngs, and so that's their home. We never touch that. You know, we just keep eye on it that everything's good, and they do well.
These bottom two here, right?
Bottom
These two?
Yeah.
At each hive, right?
At each hive. Now, the top two are just the honey supers, and those go on in the spring, one at a time, and
Once the nectar starts flowing. So when the apple trees are in bloom, that's when you start to get the excess nectar. Then the bees have enough honey for their family, basically, in the brood chambers, the bottom two boxes. And then we can start putting the honey supers on to collect honey.
Wonderful. So the bees go out and they collect nectar from what? Fruits, flowers?
Dandelions,
anything?
apple trees, pear trees. That's
yeah,
it.
the bees usually they forage like about, I saw the number somewhere, it's like about 6,000 acres they can cover around the hive. So it's quite a distance, and if they can't find any flowers close by, then they are willing to travel, because they have their orders from the queen, from the hive, to go out and find something, and they go out and they find it, no matter how, what it takes.
So that's their job, to go and get this pollen, did you say this?
What happens is every morning the scout bees go out. They find the nectar source for the day. They're opportunists, so they go only as far as they need to go, but they'll go up to 2 miles.
They have scouts to find it for the
They
day?
have scouts,
Very?
and they dance. The scouts come back and they do something called a waggle dance, and that is based on the position of the sun, so they really mostly fly out when it's sunny, and they come back and report through their dance where exactly the nectar is found. And the longer the waggle dance, the further away they have to go.
So by the amount of time of the waggle dance, that's the amount of distance that the other bees, but how about the direction though? How would they know what direction to fly to?
When they dance, they move around, and that shows the direction.
Isn't that amazing? I mean, what intelligence, right, in those bees?
They're extremely intelligent.
That's amazing.
There is a study actually. You can just watching the bee dance and measuring the distance and how many times they kind of do with their tail. You can actually figure out where they're going, and I think it's at Cornell University. They did a study, and they actually look at the dance, did the timing, how long it lasts, and in which directions. And when they finally went over, they found the
They marked the bees and they found them.
yeah, and they found them. They were on those flowers. So you can actually watching them dance and doing your math, you'll be able to find out where they're going to collect the nectar or pollen or whatever they need to.
And what does the dance look like, and where exactly do they do this dance? Inside these boxes here?
Inside of it's like on the top of on the frame, and then they just move straight forward, and they just wiggle their abdomen, and they go back and do the same thing again. It's like, and the other bees are just looking around, that dance, and they take their notes, and they go out and they exactly find the same, those flowers.
So about how many of the bees are scouts? Is it like 1% or just a few, or one of the 60,000 or something? 1,000 of 60,000?
Probably more than one. I don't know. I don't know how many there
Well,
are.
if we think that the one bee can live during the summer when it's active season and they fly, their lifespan is about 6 weeks, and they move out. They move out, and first, almost like the 4 weeks, they're actually house bees. They're not coming out at all. They do all the housekeeping jobs. They clean up the hive, they feed the youngs, they do whatever is necessary inside of the house.
Are these strictly the scout bees you're talking about now, or all of them? Oh, okay, all of them. Yeah.
But they move up to the cycles. When the bee is born, the first job she has to do is to clean up the cell she was born into.
Oh, they're all females?
All females. All the worker bees are females. There are male bees. They're called drones, but they are in the hive only starting from the spring till the fall. Now, when the weather turns cold, which is not far away, we probably see a bunch of dead drones in front of the hives, because drones don't do any job or work. They just
They have one function in life.
Which is
to mate with the queen.
And how many drones are there percentage-wise of the hive?
It can be, quite a number. I don't know about the number exactly, but you'll see during the summer when you open up the hive, there's a bunch of drones just hanging around, and they are lazy. They just,
They are fed. They don't eat themselves.
Yeah, they just watch.
They don't have stingers. They're larger than the worker bees.
Good thing you don't have a television in there. I could see them now in the recliner watching the Red Sox games, drinking beer.
Exactly.
But the end is not good for them.
Oh, because they just pass away, right? Within.
Well, they're not allowed. They're kicked out of the hive. They're not allowed back in. Weather gets cold. See you later. Because through the winter, the worker bee's sole job is to keep the queen warm at around 90 degrees Fahrenheit so she can continue laying eggs.
Wow.
So they form a cluster, keep the queen warm, and you go from probably around 40,000, drop down to 20,000 by the end of the winter, because the outer perimeter of the cluster dies off, because they are insects. They're not warm-blooded, they're cold-blooded. So they're through their wing action, they're basically creating heat, the queen.
So those male drones basically live for one season, then they're kicked out of the hive, and then they freeze to death or die some other way
Right.
in the winter.
Right, right.
Now the other bees, how long do they live normally?
As I said, the worker bee is, during the season, it's probably up to 6 weeks. They can live maybe 6 months, up to 8 months, perhaps, but yeah,
Through the winter.
in the winter, yes. The queen is the longest living insect in the hive, and she can live 2 years or sometimes even more. So if necessary. So.
Where do they get the other queen once she passes away, and what do they do with her body?
Well, the body is probably just thrown out of the hive if she.
They're very clean. They don't keep, if a bee dies or if a mouse was to get into the hive, they'll kill it, they'll encapsulate it in something called propolis so that it doesn't infect or cause any problems for the hive. They're very hygienic.
So she would pass away, and they would take care of her very hygienically. And then where would they get the next queen? How was she appointed or crowned?
Well, before the old queen dies, or they kill the queen. The hive can actually kill the queen by themselves. If the queen gets old and she won't lay enough eggs, so it won't support the hive makes a decision to replace the queen. And before she dies, she still probably has few eggs. What they do is they build a queen cell, which is significantly different, from other cells. And they basically tell the queen to lay the eggs on the bottom of that cell, and then they just feed that egg with the royal jelly to raise the new queen, so that they won't get rid of the old queen before they're sure that there are numerous new queens already in the cells and in making.
So it's like a campaign almost. There's numerous of them initially, and then there's a selection process somehow to pick out the one per hive, right?
Well, selection process actually is very simple. The queen who hatches first has always advantage, to basically kill other competitors. And that's what they do. They fight for the power, and they just sting each other. They have stingers. The queens have stingers. And they just, they keep fighting and stinging each other until there's only one queen left in the hive, and she becomes the queen of the hive. She goes out to do the mating flight, comes back, and then she won't leave the hive anymore. She just starts laying eggs, about 1,500 eggs a day, every 30 seconds.
And each one could become a bee, right?
Each one becomes a bee.
And you said her mating flight. What's that all about?
That's where the drones come in.
Yeah.
And do they go somewhere out far from the hive or something, or?
They're going to be up in the sky, fairly high actually. I would say it's like quite a few hundred yards up in the air, and that's where they have their mating flights. And what the drones do during that season, in the morning, they just get out of the hive wherever they were. And then they just start flying around, looking for the virgin queen so they can mate. And that's where they mate. And then the queen comes back fertilized, and she starts, doing her job.
Now the queen in this hive, maybe for example, where exactly might she be located? In the bottom one, or?
It depends. It depends where there are empty cells, because she wants to stay around where there are empty cells so she can lay eggs. My guess right now is she's probably in the upper box. Right, yeah, somewhere. But she can be also in the lower box. I don't know. You have to take a hive apart, frame by frame to see where she is.
Have you ever seen a queen bee in the boxes? And what do they look like? Are they surrounded by all the other bees, worker bees?
They
They're surrounded by a court. There are certain bees that are dedicated to the queen. Keep the queen fed and direct her to what cells she goes to lay her eggs.
So there's another category of bees. You have the drones, you have the queen, you have the worker bees, you have a court.
No, those are actually worker bees, but that's just one of their duties, they go through during their lifetime. And that's one of their jobs when they get a little more older and more experienced, is to protect the queen. and take care of all the needs she might have.
Well, since we're over here near the hives, maybe, I don't know if Matt saw, but we have bees coming in and out. They have a flight pattern over here, right? And they generally don't bother anyone unless you're in their flight path, right? They're gentle, just they would defend themselves if they were attacked, right?
Correct. And the only problem being in the flight path is they might get just tangled in your hair or whatever, and then they just they want to get rid of, and you start maybe doing like this, and it hurts, and then they just they fight for their life, and then they sting. They try to avoid you if possible, so they're not attacking insects at all. They don't care about the what's on your picnic table and stuff. So if people say, well, I had like a bunch of bees around my picnic party, it's never the truth, because those are not the honeybees. We're talking about wasps and yellow jackets and the other insects who may attack you in the normal settings or at your home. The honeybees, they care only about the flowers, and then they go from the hive to the flowers and back to the hive. They're not interested in what's in between.
Now, maybe if we could talk a little bit about the honey and the honey making process, how it all works. Villu, I assume the honey you get from the top two boxes here?
Yes.
And
Those
how does
two
that
boxes.
work?
Well, the honey in those boxes, I just happen to know because I opened up the hive just a couple of days ago to put the skateboard on. They are almost full, but not. Some of the frames are still empty. But the frames which are full of honey are usually capped by the wax, by the bees with wax. And I just take them home. Try to not to take bees at home. Just brushing them off from the frames. And then we set up our extractor, and we just spin the wheel and uncap the honey. First
So it
you have
spins
it's
around,
like a centrifuge.
and then the honey drips out
Correct,
through that
right. But
centrifugal
before you
force or whatever.
correct, yeah. But before you do so, you have to uncap the honey. You have to take those wax cappings off of the cells, so the honey is free again to flow out. But and you do it with a hot knife. It's like you just scrape it over, take the wax off, and then you spin the honey, and this is pretty much it.
Yeah.
Just cracking.
And what exactly is the honey comprised of? How is it made by the bees? Just out of curiosity.
You know that?
It's the nectar that they've brought in has a certain moisture content. So another job that the worker bees have is to fan the moisture away from the honey, from the nectar. And once it becomes at a low enough moisture content, then they cap it so no more moisture can come in, which is why honey doesn't go bad, because the moisture level is so low. It'll crystallize before it actually will go bad.
And it goes into these little wax honeycomb things inside the
So we're
hives
going
here,
to
right?
create the wax to build the comb, and then the field bees come in and bring the nectar in there, and once there's enough nectar that has been fanned off and the humidity level has been lowered enough, then they will cap it.
And I don't know if our cameraman could let me know how much time we have left, because we want to show Villu and Kari maybe taking some of this off, so in their suits or whatever. They have hats and everything. And we want to make sure we get some of that at the end of the show. But basically, about how much honey can you get out of each hive here?
Well, the average is probably about 100 pounds per hive. If you get more, you get a good hive. If you get less, you may have some issues to deal with. So it's the 100 pounds is pretty much the average, overall, not just us, everywhere. So that's. I do have a couple of hives who probably produce 200 pounds. They're not these ones, the ones I have at the Portland farm.
And by the way, you'll be selling them at the farm fair at September 29th, right?
Correct, yeah, because these two hives actually belong to Chelmsford Historical Society, and I'm just a beekeeper. And I'm always planning to have the honey available, the fresh honey, at the farm fair. So when people come over, They can also purchase the honey, which is still in the boxes today, but should be in the jars 3 weeks from now.
Great. Well, why don't we close up the show with Villu and Kari putting on their suits and taking off the boxes or whatever they have to do to work on extracting the honey so people at home could see that. And I won't be saying much at all during that end of the show, okay, Villu?
That's fine. Well, we're not doing actual extracting today. We're just, the only thing we do right now is we're just taking the boxes off, and I just put them in the bags and take them home, and all the extraction process takes place in our house.
Great.
As always.
Well, it sounds good. And again, I'd like to thank our cameraman and director of Chelmsford Telemedia, Matt Scott. And I'd like to thank our volunteer beekeepers, Villu and Kari Tari. I always have to make sure I pronounce that correctly. Kari Tari, right? Or is Kari? Kari Tari. Tari.
You got it, Tom. Well,
Kari Tari.
good.
Yeah.
Excellent
Nice.
job.
Nice. Well, thank you very much for your help today. And let's see what the beekeeping process looks like. Thank you very much. So Villu is starting a fire on what they call a smoker. Is that right, Kari?
Right. He's lighting the smoker, and that is going to produce enough smoke to make the bees think that there is a fire somewhere near. And what they do then is run into the hive to gorge themselves on honey, which slows them down so they're less likely to sting. Because they're actually too heavy with the honey, because they're preparing to escape the hive if it's on fire.
Oh, so that's why I always see these beekeepers with that smoke
Exactly.
thing or
Calms them
whatever.
down.
Calms them down. Oh.
Right.
By the way, have you ever been stung? Or Villu?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Villu's been stung more than I have, but then he also goes to the hives more often.
Oh, and it hurts as much as a wasp sting, you would say?
A sting is a sting. It hurts.
Great.
Absolutely.
Villu is, as you can see with the smoke in back of me, he's getting the smoke all ready to go over to the beehive and calm the bees down.
Right.
And Villu, as you can see, he has his protective gear on now, his gloves, his hat with the screen in front so he doesn't get bit as easily, and hope not at all, right, Villu?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, less distracted for myself, so I can really concentrate of, what I'm doing, not just, watching some angry bees maybe flying around me and start dealing with them. So it's just a matter of,
Great. Sounds good.
comfort level. That's what Okay.
So Villu's going into the fenced-in area that he and the others built over here at the Barrett-Byam Historical Home on Byam Street in Chelmsford. And people could come by and take a look at this anytime they want. That's why we call this a Spotlight in Chelmsford show, to show all the wonderful things we have in the beautiful town of Chelmsford.
So basically what I do right now, I give a little smoke at the entrance where the guard bees are located.
Yeah.
So distract them a little. So just a couple of puffs. And that would be enough. And then
really?
basically my next thing is I'm taking the roof off.
Oh, okay.
And there should be much less bees in it, in these honey supers, because I did put the escape board on. It's called triangle escape board, which is one of the smart equipment actually, which if you put it on like day before or so, and I put it in day before at night, has like a little hole, and the triangle, well, I can show it later, but what it prevents is the bees are going, usually when it's nighttime and it cools off, the bees from the top, they move down to the brood chamber, and it has only like 3 ways to get back up, but they usually don't find those entrances. So by the time today, I'm expecting very small number of bees in these boxes, so it makes my job easier for me to just take the honey off.
Great. Well, if you could start doing that, Villu, and I'll be talking to Kari, and Kari will be explaining hopefully what's going on.
Yes. Well, to start with, Villu's wearing light clothing, so it's whatever is the least distracting for the bees. And also, he's going to be moving relatively slowly. So the bees are less likely to be interrupted from the work they're doing in the hive. You can see where the cover's been lifted off. There are a few bees up at the top still, but when you judge that a hive at this time of year has upwards of 50 to 60,000 bees, that's not a whole lot. And he's driving them into the hive further down by smoking them on the top, so they're not going to be giving too much resistance.
And this box is heavy. This is about 30-40 pounds of honey.
So the honey super is what that's called when it's full. It's about 30 to 40 pounds, which is why I don't get involved in removing those boxes. I put them on, but I don't have the strength to lift them off. So he's putting the cover back on to make sure that bees don't actually come down from another entrance into the honey.
And what's he doing now?
And now what he's doing, he has his hive tool to actually separate some of the frames, and he's going to be lifting one out to show you what the capped honeycomb looks like when it's on the frame.
There are different ways people or beekeepers, take their honey away. I mean, I just do my way. Everybody does differently. What I do here is I'm actually moving all these boxes and I'm brushing off whatever the remaining of bees, because I really don't want to take them home.
And they don't want to come home.
And they don't want to come home because
and you can see there's this sticky matter here on the hive. That's called propolis. That is extremely healthy. That is antifungal, antimicrobial stuff. That is what they use. It's soft. That is what they use to seal the hive. They use it to, as I said before, if there was a mouse or some foreign matter that came in to the hive that they couldn't actually remove, they would actually coat it with the propolis, embalm it, so to speak. So now,
and here comes a solid frame of honey. As you see, as I told you earlier, it's all capped. It's a solid piece of honey here. It's capped with a wax, so the moisture level is basically brought down very, there's very little moisture in the honey, so you really don't want to expose the honey, uncapped or out of the jars. Here's just one bee wandering around still. But as you see, this box is pretty much empty of the bees, so that's what the escape board did.
you can tell a honeybee from other bees because that middle section there is a little bit hairy.
Yeah.
Oh.
But when they get older, the old field bees, they're actually pretty sleek and shiny because, they just, they warm them out.
I didn't realize they look a little bit like a yellow jacket, but not as bright yellow, but still there's a resemblance to me.
But every box has 10 frames. We do it with 10 frames also. Some people do 8 frames, but the 10 frames is pretty standard. And as I said, this one box probably contains about 30-40 pounds of honey.
The bees do the work. The management is just to help the bees along. And the more bees we have, the more beekeepers we have, the better. So we invite anyone who has even the remotest interest in beekeeping to certainly come to the farm fair, take a look at the hives, and you can find beekeeping mentors all over the Northeast.
Right, and what I would really love to see is when people say, "Oh, I hate bees because I got stung or they sting me." It's not really true. So I'd like to see people not saying that anymore because the honeybees are actually good for you because they do pollinate about 90 crops in the United States every single year, daily, 24/7, so we can have a food supply and food on our table, including the Thanksgiving table, and so they're actually very useful insects. And hopefully everything goes well, all these diseases and stuff. The answers we still don't know, many of them, how to get rid of them.
Right. Well, thank you very much, Villu and Kari, and our director, Matt Scott. And thank you very much for watching the Spotlight on Chelmsford show. Hopefully you've enjoyed it as much as I did and learned as much as I did. I'm Tom Christiano. Ciao.